Greetings and welcome. My name is Jake Rayson. I am a forest gardener and a forest garden designer, and today I am showing you my forest garden design secrets. Let's switch over to the slideshow. This slideshow is online. It's at forestgarden.wales/talks/secrets, and it's always there, and there's lots of kind of useful links on it. This talk today really is for people who are considering setting up their own forest garden. So hopefully it'll give an insight into the tools that I use as a designer. It'll give you a bit of an insight into that. Press P for notes. You see there's not that many notes in there at the moment. There is on other pages, or maybe there isn't. But anyway, there might be more information in there. So press the P button, that brings the notes up. So forestgarden.wales/talks/secrets. Without further ado, let's get a move on. So this is about my design process. So other designers are going to have a different design process, and that is a good thing. Do be aware, use what is comfortable for you. Just take a little bit here or a little bit there, or follow the whole lot. I really don't mind. I'm not kind of ideological about it. You must do it like this. This is what I find works for me. Do stuff that works for you. Find out that what works for you. Depends on your situation, depends on your skills, depends on your outlook on life, depends what you're comfortable with, what you learn, all the rest of it. So this is just stuff that I've used. So then that's a nice thing, is to have a diversity of approaches. There's a lovely forest gardener. In fact, there's an awful lot actually. Very, very lucky in forest garden world because people are really nice, and they're really happy to share information and to share ideas, which I think is fantastic. And there's a forest gardener called Annie Kelsey who's written a couple of really good books. I can't remember what they're called. Perennial Vegetables and I've got it up there. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, she's great. She's got I imagine a very different approach to me. We're kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, so to speak. But she's, I think, kind of different, very just different take on stuff, which I think is brilliant because it's like, it gives a different ideas and different perspectives on it. So today I'm going to talk about the process, an overview of how I approach a design job. So this is kind of put it quite formally. This is a client approaches me and says, I would like you to design my forest garden for me. This is how I would approach it. This is what the steps I would take for tackling that job. Then I'll be looking at the tools and the tools overall, and then the tools as they relate to the actual process. What is important is always, it's the relationship between the person, the people, and the garden. That's the important thing. The tools are aids. They're not ends in themselves. It's just a way of helping that communication and finding out those ideas. So always bear that in mind. Don't get hung up on tools. Don't go, have I done it perfectly or not? Very often it's rather like my approach to planting things. Sometimes I'll just chuck stuff in the ground. If it lives, it lives, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. It depends. It really depends. If you haven't got time, just do it roughly, but do it. Get it out. Yeah. Other times you need to be quite precise. If you're putting in, you're putting in a fence next to a water main, then you do need to be a bit precise. But obviously it kind of depends. But concentrate on the process, the relationship between people and the garden. Then I can look at the references that I use. Oh, actually, I've got the wrong way around. Yep. And then I'll look at the tools and process. Sorry. So process, overview of the process, the tools that I use, reference material that I have access, that I constantly use for a design, and then the tools and the process together. So I hope that makes sense. Cool. Let's get kicked and move on. So with the process, I really like to think about the design process as it's iterative, and I think of it as a spiral. So over time, it comes together, it spirals up, and there's less and less. So you can do the big work first of all, and it kind of refines and it refines and it refines, and it's constantly spiraling through time. If you've ever done any kind of design work, I think this is would make more sense. And what I think is kind of important with design is it's not, it's really not that complicated. I mean, it can be complicated, and there can be an awful lot to think about. And it's putting the pieces together, but it's putting things in the right place is really what design is about, is putting things in the right place. What the right place is the process. This is what you're trying to find out. So it's kind of like Wittgenstein, his approach to philosophy, and I don't know much about Wittgenstein just because my partner's doing an MA at the moment, but he talks about the role of philosophy, and what philosophy is doing is laying bare and exposing so you can see the workings. So nothing needs to be explained because everything is obvious. And that's the kind of the design process is, this is what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to put things in the place that they work. And it doesn't need an explanation that you put the tap next to the propagation area and the polytunnel. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, of course. And then you move on. So the first things really, when I kind of come to it, this iterative design process, the first thing that I look at is, the first question is, how will you use the garden? What is the relationship between the people and the space? And it varies. There isn't one answer. There isn't one forest garden design. There isn't one answer to this question, because people are different. Not everybody is obsessed with different plants. Strange though that may sound, not everybody has hours and hours with which to spend creating a garden, or not everybody has the energy to do this. Not everybody has the money to buy a whole load of plants and have to propagate things themselves. So people have different, they have different requirements and different wants and desires. So this is finding out what people want and how they fit into that space. So great example is the school, the forest garden that I'm designing for a school. The idea is, how is that space going to be used? And it's great because it's nice, and in some respects it's quite clear, because you can say it's used for outdoor classes, and the kids are learning about land art, like Andy Goldsworthy's type of art with leaves, or there's a possibility for a clay pit, and they're making clay things, and they're den building, but also learning about wildlife. There's bug hunts, there's looking at different habitats, there's kind of concentration on recycling, there's all these different functions, there's all these different things that can be used. They're looking at growing food for the kitchen, looking at growing food that they can pick for themselves at break time, for apples and pears and soft fruit. So there's all this different kind of things. These are the functions that school forest garden can supply. So that's your starting point. Yep, that's where you start. Don't jump in and plant trees. Start with the function. The next thing I would say, then when you kind of got a good idea of that, make a list, or use Pinterest, use like an image board, but put all those ideas together. The next thing really is to work. I should do an illustration for this actually, but it's to work from the center. I'll make a note of that because that's actually a really quite important thing that I'm learning time and time again. Work from center. What this means is start with a high area where you use the most. So this will be quite literally the back door, the view out of the kitchen window, because I spend an inordinate amount of time washing up and cooking. So I've started clearing up the bank that I can see out the back window and taking the bramble out of it, and then I'm going to get rid of the grass, and that's just like an area. There's a bit of sedum there, and there's some snowdrops, and I'm just going to put in different things. That's what I start with, and then you have the other areas I would say are the perennial vegetables and the polytunnel and propagation areas. And it's kind of, this could be quite literally outside the back door, and your propagation area is a little tray of seeds, or it could be we're very lucky here. I've got a lot of space for propagation, and I do propagate a lot of plants for clients. But whatever it is, it's like that's an area. Think about the propagation space, and think about where you're growing your vegetables. Now, your vegetables can be beds of vegetables, or they can be a pot with vegetables in, or it can be a tray on a windowsill. It's the same idea. This is what you're thinking about. you're working from the center and you work outwards. And paths are a very good way of firstly visualizing the space that you have, but also connecting the space. And they also define the areas. I made the mistake of, I designed everything when I first moved here, and I tried to do everything all at the same time, and that's not a mistake. It's a lesson. I don't have the time or the energy to see it through. So there's some areas have kind of reverted back to wildness and need to be redone. And it's a bit of I shouldn't really. I would do it differently next time round. So what I'm doing now is I'm concentrating on, like I said, weeding by the back door, and then I am looking at the perennial vegetable area, the polytunnel. I'm turning all the annual vegetable beds over to perennial vegetables with some annuals in there, but I'm just totally changing the way that I'm approaching vegetable growing in the polytunnel. I'm getting a perennial polytunnel and perennial vegetables. I'm not interested in annual vegetables. I thought it was a thing to do and self-sufficiency and that. Nah, not going there again. Too much work. Not interested in it. And this is my personal preference, personal views on it. And so what I kind of want to do then is like look at the area. Putting the paths in, you've got these different areas. So there's a polytunnel, there's a propagation area, there's perennial vegetable beds, and I'm working on those bit by bit. And you've got the different well-defined areas defined by the paths, and you kind of expand outwards. Yep. So start from the center and then expand outwards. So use the paths to define the areas, be very clear about what the areas are, and then work on one area by another area. And you know when an area is finished in forest gardening terms, because you've got a ground cover in, and you've got some, you've got ground cover in shrubs and some canopy layer. And then you can just do a minimal bit of weeding. After the first couple of years, it's minimal weeding. And that's when you finish an area, and then move on to the next area. And this comes on to the very important top is the very important point about the scheduling and how this actually pans out. So I will move on to the schedule. So basically, I like to kind of break this down into 3 separate stages. So the first stage is the planning and the designing stage. Second stage is the infrastructure, and the third stage is the ground preparation and the shrubs. So take your time. Don't rush in. As I was saying before, work from the centre of the home and just kind of first of all get the space around the house sorted out and set up how it works, and figure out where to put if you want to have a polytunnel or a greenhouse or a propagation area or a potting shed, work out where these areas are, but kind of plan the whole garden, but constantly get more detail by the centre of the house. And I said before, you just do it, you work from the centre, but you want to put the infrastructure in for the whole garden at the beginning, but then work on area by area for the detail, for the ground preparation and the ground cover and the shrubs. That's the bit that you do section by section. So, for example, here, and it's a kind of nice example. We've got 1 acre forest garden over there, which I'm kind of redoing and coming back to and bringing back up to speed. And another one which we started a couple of years ago, and I always knew it was going to take longer because that one's not been finished. So what I've done is put windbreaks in, dead hedges, and dug an area for a pond and put a platform in and put the canopy layer in, but left everything else to grass. So that needs mowing. The paths need mowing every few weeks. And then the main kind of the main grass just needs to be kind of kept down once a year or once every couple of years, and you can just keep on doing that. And the trees will keep, as long as the trees are mulched, the trees will keep on growing. The windbreaks will keep on growing, and then we can go back and visit each area and clear the grass from the ground, and then put in the ground cover and the shrubs. Yeah. So this is the approach. Do the initial plan first of all for everything, but concentrate on the place near the home, Then do the infrastructure, which is putting the structures in, putting the canopy layer in, the trees, and then putting in the dead hedges and the windbreaks, the dead hedges and the living hedges. So that's the kind of infrastructure, and you can maintain it at that level. It's quite a lot of work to do that, but then you can maintain it at that level quite easily because the grass doesn't need that much going. And then then approach it by area, one area at a time. Clear the grass, put down plant shrubs, put down bark mulch, plant your ground cover, put in a temporary ground cover, etc. Yep. So that's the kind of 3 stages. So I hope that's kind of clear. Yes, and this is how I would do it. And a kind of related note as well, what I was thinking about today was that I wouldn't use plastic. I have been using sheet mulch. I just wish I hadn't used sheet mulch. I really, really do. I thought it was a thing to do, but no, I'm not going to use plastic sheet mulch anymore. I use a wood chip piles on the areas that are kind of around by the perennial veg bed. I put a hard standing path on the main path up to the polytunnel, and it's small grass paths everywhere else. And then, yeah, for clearing grass, I am actually going to hire in a mini digger for a day and clear a load of grass and make mounds out of them, so earth mounds, and use them for kind of creating windbreaks. So that's my new approach. No more plastic, no more sheet mulch. Use ground cover. So that's a whole other. It's a whole other thingy lecture, but I won't talk about it now. Right then. So tools. Come on then. Tools. There we go. Tools. So these are a few of the tools that I use, and I just want to talk about them very, very quickly. The Telegram is like WhatsApp. You get it on your phone. Have I got my face on here? Yeah. There's my phone. So I've got Telegram on here, and I've got Telegram on my laptop as well. And it's great because you can set up groups for it. You can set up, you can set groups up on it. You can do voice chats. Well, it's a bit iffy at the moment, but you can do voice chats. You can do video calls, and it's just a really, really good way of kind of communicating. And you can post really, really big videos and share big videos with people as well. So it's actually kind of quite handy. I prefer, and it's not. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and Facebook is evil. Quite simply put, because they just suck your data and sell your soul to advertising. Simple Note is another website that I use a great deal, and this really is using it's. I'll come on to this. It's a way of keeping notes on. Again, there's an app for the phone. There's various apps for your laptop, your desktop as well. So if I make a note of things, I've got a notebook, good old pen and paper. I've got a notebook and I've got a phone. And I'll just kind of jot ideas down and put them on here. But it's a really good way if you're taking notes. If you're doing any kind of writing at all, I totally recommend using it. It uses a thing called Markdown, which I'll come on to in a bit. But brilliant, and you can share the notes. So Telegram's great because you can share videos and you can chat to people, and Simple Note is great because you can share notes. You can share a note with somebody else. Cloudnary is my. Oh, I've got the things. Oh, I'll come on to them. Cloudnary is my image hosting platform of choice. I use it for all the images that I use for the website, and also images for a project. I put them into a folder. All the images relating to a project I put into a folder. But not only that, you can store other things. You can store other files as well. Fantastic. Really, really recommend it. Pinterest is a way of sharing images. It is a way of pulling images off the internet to in one place and then sharing them. Say, what about this plant? Isn't it brilliant? QCAD is free open source free software. It's open source software for creating CAD. If you're going to do more than a couple of garden designs, and you're thinking about designing stuff regularly on a regular basis, I totally recommend learning CAD. And CAD can be really expensive, but there's free versions. These they are open source versions. So there's kind of various. There's a paid for and a not paid and a free version. Totally brilliant bit of software. It really speeds things up, particularly like sharing designs with clients. And then Google Sheets. Google is evil, Facebook is evil, Amazon's evil, Apple's evil, Google's evil, because again they collect data on you without, you don't know what that data is that they're collecting, and then they use that data and sell that data to advertisers. Well, they sell your profile. You are sold. You are the product. But they make some very nice spreadsheets. So Google Sheets is actually a really, really good bit of software for sharing information, putting together information about different plants. I'll come on to it in a second. So that's an overview. This is all links on here these are all links on here to the different bits of software, and then the reference the stuff that I actually use. So if you're starting out in forest gardening, totally recommend buy this book, Creating a Forest Garden by Martin Crawford. It's a very good reference. It's a good reference, and it's a step-by-step guide to creating a forest garden as well from scratch. So it's totally recommend it. Really, really good book. I have where is it? Oh, there it is. I've made a spreadsheet, forest garden spreadsheet. I've had to do images because my computer's so bloody slow. I can't actually. It won't load up a spreadsheet. It won't load up the spreadsheet and do live streaming at the same time. But this is a screenshot of the spreadsheet that I've created. That is with a really nice guy called Ollie Boone and a nice chap called Chris Day. And it's a list of all the plants in this book in order that they appear in the book as well, and it's sortable. The spreadsheet is sortable, which means you can sort by height and function and etc. So totally recommend looking at that. Oops. And then so Create Your Forest Garden, really good reference. Forest Garden spreadsheet. Plants for a Future is a brilliant online database. I didn't take a screenshot of it, but pfaf.org. That it's like where we got all the information for the spreadsheet from. Absolutely brilliant, just really fantastic reference. Plant Atlas. I forgot Plant Atlas down there. Oh yes, Plant Atlas. I'm totally into native plants as well, funnily enough, and forest gardening. So when doing a garden design, I kind of start off from a forest garden perspective. But a forest garden is all about creating an edible ecosystem. It's about creating a forest garden with working with nature to grow edible crops. Is the subtitle of Martin Crawford's book, and it's just working with nature. You work with nature by inviting nature into the garden, and one of the best ways to do this, apart from creating diverse habitats, which is a brilliant thing you can do as a gardener, you do it by using native plants, because native plants have co-evolved with wildlife. So there's a fantastic resource, brc.ac.uk/plant atlas, I think, and it lists all the UK native plants. UK is Britain and Ireland. So it's brilliant. It's a really good reference. It's not for gardeners, it's for botanists. So there's some information. I use it in combination with Plants for a Future, and between them, it's really good. Really totally recommend it. I've got another project called Garden Wild, which lists UK native wildflowers, but it's part of that. Anyway, so totally recommend doing that. Oh, that hasn't worked. Oh, there we go. And then, funnily enough, RHS Plants is another very good reference. It's mostly ornamental, so there's a few thousand plants that it lists, and it's kind of like lots of different species, lots of different cultivars, different varieties. But there is a native filter, so I use it with the native filter, and they list about 335 native plants there as well, which is it's not bad. So it's a good cross-reference if you can't find something on Plants for a Future or on the Plant Atlas. This is a good place. It's a good place to come, and also it gives you more kind of ornamental information as well about flower color and things. So that's really good. That's good. There's a link to that one. And Harrop's Wildflowers. Whoa. Again, from a UK, this is you kind of UK centric. Oops, the wrong one. Where am I? Here I am. Here we go. So really brilliant book. Do get a copy if you can. It's just fantastic just to see the wildflowers that are around, and you would be amazed when you start to look. You're just amazed at the diversity of UK wildflowers. I mean, it's just brilliant. So, and it's a really nice book. It's very kind of small amounts of information about each plant, but just enough to identify it. And yeah, it's kind of opens up a whole new world. And I just think there's so much potential for using native plants in a garden setting as well, because it kind of benefits everybody. And the other Garden Wild spreadsheet, there is a link there. Shall I try and... I don't know if it's going to work or not. Oh, and I have a Garden Wild spreadsheet. So the Garden Wild stuff that I'm doing, I'm not going to do that. It's too big. The Garden Wild spreadsheet is a list of the project is to take photographs of UK native wildflowers in an ornamental setting, and then promote them in horticulture, so that everyone, that when they think about plants, they think about designing any garden at all, they think about using native plants. You go, wow, have you seen the garlic mustard, for example, like this one here, which is in flower all over the place. It's a biennial. What's it called? Monocarpic, yeah, which means, I think it means it dies once it flowers. And it's everywhere, and it's actually a really beautiful plant. It's a member of the cabbage family, Crucifera, however you pronounce it. And you can tell from the flowers they form a cross, and very similar flowers. We've got cabbage flowering here, perennial kale flowering, same kind of flowers. So yeah, that's Garden Wild, is to use these kind of plants in an ornamental garden setting, and there's a fantastic crossover then with forest gardening as well. And database of insects and their foods. This is so cool. I don't know why people just aren't using this all the time. It is brilliant. So this shows you the associations between insects and their food plants, and this is actual observations in scientific research. So if you search for a plant under here, you go select Crucifera, however you pronounce that name of the family. Come on then, and then we can see Aliaria petiolata, which is garlic mustard, and then it will show, blimey. Whoa, look at that. Oh, that's brilliant. So this is it's another rabbit hole. And this is like Coleoptera beetles, Diptera flies, Hemiptera, aren't they kind of green fly? Butterflies, Micromoths, Macromoths, Lepidoptera. Oh, fantastic. It's brilliant. So these are all the insects that use garlic mustard as a host plant for food. So this is why this is a very good reason why you should grow garlic mustard in your garden. And just imagine a whole garden stuffed with ornamental native plants. It's just the diversity of food stuff for insects would be brilliant. Okay, so that's that one. That's the reference. Now I wanted to quickly talk about tools and process. Oh, cool. Sorry. There we go. So key thing, I just want to kind of go back to the tools and have a quick look over each of the tools. Telegram, I'll speed it up on this bit. So Telegram is really, really good. It's all about communicating with the client, asking the client, the people involved, the people whose garden it is. That's what we're concentrating on. So WhatsApp replacement, it's got group chats that you can have. So I've got one set up for the backyard forest course, and voice and video calls, and you can upload big videos. Key question amongst all of this is, what do you want? Always, what do you want, and how does those desires and those wants fit into the functioning of the garden? Simple note, is publishing notes and links. Very quickly, it's so cool. Very quickly, I've got one on here. So here is, can I zoom in? Probably not. Oh, I can zoom in a bit. So here you can see this is written in Markdown. If you ever do any writing at all, Markdown is super handy to learn if you do like writing for websites or anything, because that is like a link. You can create a very simple. What is fantastic is you can create a really simple website just from using this, from using a note. So I'll write a note here, and you know, this is the page. This is the page. Hello everybody. So I write on my note. Okay, and it might not come through straight away. And this is what you see, and it links to the different parts. So basically, you're creating a very simple website. So for all the notes that I do for my clients, I make a it's basically creating a website for them, which is fantastic. So it gives links to the files, which are on Cloudnary, and it talks about the design. It puts photographs on there as well. So that's really handy. And you can see, look, it's published it automatically. So any changes I make here, this is a bit of software called NV Out on the Mac, but you can use Simple Note on the Mac as well. Any changes I make there are reflected on the website. So really cool way of being able to communicate ideas with clients. Next up is Cloudnary. Cloudnary is great. This is the one I was talking about before. I have folders for each of my kind of projects that's going on, and what's so cool, I resize the images before I upload them to Cloudnary, because essentially then I've got free web image hosting for the rest of my life, because the sizes are so small. They're like, I've got 10 gigabytes, and each image is half a megabyte, if that. And you can store PDFs up on there, and CAD as well. So if you're using WordPress, there's a plugin for WordPress. So if you do use a lot of images, then really have a look at using Cloudnary. I'm going to use it for the Garden Wild project because it's a cheap and fast way of storing images and sharing them onto a website. So definitely have a look. For big files, I'm using B2 cloud storage, but I won't bother showing you that now. Pinterest. Pinterest. Come on then, Pinterest. Where are you? Pinterest is cool. It's a bit... Pinterest is a bit too kind of corporate. I don't know. They're kind of in a Google sense, but it is actually very easy. Here's a screen grab of Pinterest, and you can you get adverts in them. But it's a good way of sharing images. So you can see this is a job I've been doing, and just sharing images like lungwort and different wall finishes and stuff. So that's cool. So it's a good way of creating mood boards, sharing ideas about the kind of thing that you'd like to see. So kind of recommend using that. And then QCAD is fab. I haven't got time to show you. I'm really sorry. This is some designs that I've done. This is a 1.5 acre site in Poland. And here's a small garden. Oh, I don't know how big it is actually, but not that big. It's somebody's back garden, forest garden design. It is so, yeah. I wish I had more time to kind of talk about the actual design process itself, but this is what I use. The main thing I use it for is creating circles. So I have yet another project which is associated with the forest garden spreadsheet, where all the plants that are listed in this book, well, not all of them, all the kind of canopy stuff actually, and the shrubs, all the canopy and the shrubs, I will put in here. Will it zoom in? Yes. Oh yes. Come on. There we go. So they are just circles with names and details in the middle. I'm going to do that. This is freely available, and what you do is you copy a file from, this is all set up to speed my design process. I copy a file from here, and then I can paste it into the design that I'm doing. So it just saves me having to kind of create each circle with each plant in it. I can just copy and paste them. So that's another one. It's called Forest Garden CAD. It's a bit kind of early stages, but if you are interested, that's freely available on GitHub. So there's a link there on GitHub. But QCAD is brilliant. big learning curve. Only use it if you're going to be doing like design in the long term. Okay, there we go. Complex, good. And Google Sheets. So finally, Google Sheets is there's two things that are really, really good about Google Sheets. Firstly, is that you can share the spreadsheet that you're working on. So this is one I've got for a client in Romania. And I can just get all the information. They gave us a list of plants that they wanted. I've created a spreadsheet of the list of plants, and I put them into this spreadsheet. And the great thing is I can then share that spreadsheet with the client, and the client can go, oh yes, I can see this is the plant, or this is the botanical name. The other thing that you can do as well is you can link it up. Where is it? Oh, the bed. So here there is a link. Oh no. Oh no, sorry, I keep thinking I'm on. Is it that one? Oh yeah. So here there is a column which has got bed written on it, and this means that you can say these are the plants that go in this bed, so you can work out on a bed by bed process. And the other great thing as well is that you can work out the number, the quantity that you have, and then when it comes to working out the when it comes to working out the price for stuff, you can say I want 3 apples on an MM106 from this nursery. It's going to cost 20. That's going to cost you £60 or whatever. But it's a way of being able to cost the job as well. So it's super useful for that from your point of view. So it's kind of really all these tools for planting. And I think the point here is everything that we're putting together is for the purpose of putting a plant into a particular place, and that's what we're concentrating on. So there's an awful lot goes on in a garden, because a garden is a design space, but all these tools are supporting the idea of getting that plant, putting that plant in the ground. But that's all it is, but there is so much more to it as well. So I hope that's useful. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next week. Bye.